What's up, Southside students? My name is Austin Harris, and I get the privilege of working with the Collide High School Ministry. Today, we are going to continue in our series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do, and Tucker Hall is going to be bringing the word. But before we get to the message, let's take a look at this bumper.
Hey everyone, we're continuing our series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do, and I know this statement is so true in my life. I grew up with a twin brother who is a foot taller than me, who is stronger than me, who is more athletic than me, and really pretty much better than everything than me. And then I also have an older brother who was 5 years older than me, who was the starting quarterback for Hoko and also number 4 in his class. So I had really big shoes to fill for my brothers, but I always love to challenge my brothers on many things. So as we've been talking about Joseph through these past couple of weeks, I've been really able to identify with Joseph and the things that he has gone through. Like this one time with me and my brothers. So me and my twin brother, we always fought about literally everything. He literally likes the Georgia Bulldogs, and I like the Auburn Tigers. That's literally how opposite that we are in so many cases. And one time, I remember when we were kids, we were arguing so much, and my parents just finally got fed up, and this is what they literally did. I'm not lying, so please believe me here. They literally put us in our backyard, and it's a fenced in. We have our pool, and there's a little grassy side to the left side. And my dad said, "All right, you two go handle it outside." And he literally locked us outside and just let us fight until the end. And we were going at it and arguing and yelling at each other. Then we got outside, and you know what happened? We didn't throw a single punch. We literally just both started crying our eyes out, saying, "We love our brother. We don't want to fight." So my dad was like, "Okay, cool." They made up. They chose peace rather than payback in this moment. But then all of a sudden, when we get back inside the house, my dad's like, "Oh, cool, it's going to be done." And we go right back to fighting once again. So I get Joseph and the family drama that he had. Now, our drama obviously wasn't what Joseph went through, but it was so much drama. We were always fighting, and there's so many times where we could choose payback. And I'm sure if you have siblings, if you have friends, if you have family, there's so many instances where you can choose payback over peace. You can choose to go back to the one thing that your friend or your family or that person did to you, and you say, "I want to give payback to that person," rather than pursuing peace in this moment. Because honestly, what payback does more than anything is payback weighs us down. Because after that one thing, and hopefully you have good friends who love you, and if they do something mean against you, they're going to ask for forgiveness and apologize to you. But when those times that you don't know what's going on, when you want to choose payback rather than peace, ultimately what payback does for you and for me is it weighs us down. Because now all our thoughts to this person is, how can we get you back? How can we get even with you? And it holds us down, and it weighs us down, and controls our thoughts. So ultimately, all payback does is hold you and I back, and it does nothing else for anyone else. Because everyone else goes on with life as normal, but payback holds us down and weighs us down and holds us back for what God wants to do. And we can see this in Joseph's life over and over again. Joseph went through so many trials and so many moments where he could choose payback rather than peace. Just here's a couple of examples of Joseph's life that we've talked about. Joseph, his brothers literally tried to kill him. His brothers then sold him into slavery. He then got sold into slavery in Egypt and was a slave to them. He then got put in prison in Egypt. He then, the story starts changing here. It starts kind of going to an upturn when he starts interpreting dreams for Pharaoh, and he starts turning into this guy that Pharaoh can trust. And he gets put into a high position for Egypt and for Pharaoh. Joseph sees this, and we're going to pick up right here in Genesis 45, where you see this food storage and this happening where there's a famine going on and people are looking for food. So Joseph's father, Jacob, sends his other brothers to Egypt. And remember, they're thinking that Joseph's dead, that Joseph's not alive. So they come to Egypt, where now Joseph's in charge of the food, and they come to Joseph and they say this in Genesis 45, verse 1. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all the attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. So we see this reunion where the brothers come back to Joseph, and Joseph has a choice here. Do I pay them back and kick them out, or do I choose peace in this moment? And what does Joseph do? Because ultimately, when I ask myself this question, when I put myself in Joseph's shoes, there's no way I could have chose peace in that moment. After all that life has thrown at me, after all the things that I've gone through, after all the things that my brothers intentionally did against me to push me out and sell me, how could I choose peace? Joseph understood something that we sometimes miss. Joseph understood what God had in store for him, and sometimes that I miss so many times when I try to push payback on other people rather than choosing peace. But then we keep reading and we see in verse 4 through 7, it says this, "Then Joseph said to his brothers, 'Come close to me.' When they had done so, he said, 'I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there had been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance.'" Notice what Joseph's saying here. Joseph isn't putting the blame on his brothers. He's not saying, "Hey, it was your fault." No, he's saying, "It's okay. Don't be angry. Don't be mad. God sent me here to save his people." And God has a plan, because in our life, in your life, God works through the good and the bad, all for his glory and all for his plan. So was Joseph hurt here? Did Joseph have feelings here? Yes. Was he hurting in this moment and probably angry even at his brothers? Yes. But he said, my anger isn't going to get the best of this. God's grace is going to win here. I'm going to choose peace over payback in this moment. And throughout our life, so many times, and one thing that I can constantly look to in Joseph's life that I can apply in my life is this: am I allowing my feelings to dictate my faith? God, I don't know what's going on in my life. I'm questioning you and I'm doubting you. Therefore, my feelings toward you aren't the best. Therefore, that's going to define my faith. And in those moments, Joseph could have easily done that and said, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm hurting. Therefore, my faith is going to be hurt. But no. He let his faith define his feelings. And he looked at his faith and he looked at his feelings and said, no. God's going to get the victory. God's going to win and pursue peace in this moment rather than payback in this moment. And so many times, you and I need to choose this in our life. And then we keep reading in verse 8, and it says this: "So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. God sent me here," is what Joseph's saying. "He made me the father to Pharaoh and Lord of his entire household and ruler of all Egypt." Joseph's saying God's plan will always win in these moments. How does this happen? How does Joseph all of a sudden have this moment where he can choose peace rather than payback? And it's the truth that you and I need to know. When we don't know what to do, we should always pursue peace over payback. We should pursue peace in our relationships, in our life, over paying back someone for what they've done to us. Because God can work through the good and the bad, through the hurt and the healing. God is still going to win, and his glory and name can still get the victory if we allow him to work through that. And I love this because in Joseph's life, we see this clearly. We clearly see Joseph constantly choosing peace over payback. But there's even one more person who I think chose this and did this better than anyone else. There's one person in the world and throughout all of history who could have paid back his people, yet he didn't. And that one person is God. God had a perfect relationship with Adam and Eve. Yet because of sin, we have a separation with God. We don't have this perfect relationship anymore. And you and I, we know we always sin. We always fall short of what God wants us to do and what God is calling us to do. And we choose our plan over what God wants for our life. And when we do this, when we put things before God, that is sin. And that sin separates us. And that sin also leads to death. We don't have life. Yet God looks at us and loves us so much that he doesn't say, hey, I'm going to pay you back. No. He has a plan for grace and for peace to come into action. And what this grace is, what grace can be defined as, is getting what you don't deserve. You and I, everyone on earth, we are all sinners and we deserve death, but we don't get it. We can have life through Jesus, because of what Jesus did on the cross, taking on our sin and our shame on the cross and rising again to defeat death and sin forever. We can have life. And God looks at us and says, I'm choosing peace over payback. I'm choosing grace over wrath. And because of that, God looks at you, he looks at me, and he says, I love you so much. You can have peace and a relationship with me. And because God did that, we can look at other people and do that as well. I love what Ephesians chapter 2 says about this. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. Notice what it says. It says, you've been saved from your sin and your wrath by grace, by getting what you don't deserve. You've been saved by that, through faith. And this is not your own, but it is a gift of God. It's a gift that God gives us. And because of his grace, we can have peace in our relationship with God, and we can have peace with relationships to others. So my question and my hope in our heart is this. Who are you giving peace to in your life? Who are you loving in your life? When things don't go your way, when things seem to be out of control, are you choosing peace over payback? So in those moments when you don't know what to do, choose and pursue peace over payback. Who do you need to forgive in your life? Who do you need to choose peace with rather than payback? Because you have the awesome opportunity looking at Joseph's life, but also understanding what God has done for us and the free gift of grace he gives us, that we can always, no matter what the situation is, no matter how much someone has hurt you, you can always choose peace over payback.
Wow, what a great reminder that when we don't know what to do, we can pursue peace over payback. Don't forget you can keep up with everything on our Instagram account, Southside MSM and Southside HSM. And don't forget as well that you can check us out on our YouTube channel, Southside Students. Peace out, y'all. See you later.